Time for business. Kate Moody joins us. I'm pleased to announce the internet giant Google is facing another major antitrust lawsuit. Kate, what do we know so far?
Mark, a group of 38 U.S. states and territories want to take Google to court, accusing it of shutting out its rivals in the online search market. The Colorado Attorney General, who announced this federal lawsuit in Washington, D.C., said the company's practices, quote, deny consumers the benefit of competition, including the possibility of higher quality services and better privacy protections. Advertisers are harmed through lower quality and higher prices. He described Google as setting itself up to be the gatekeeper of the entire internet, shutting out potential rivals and preventing them from accessing consumers directly. Now, the suit basically claims that Google is so dominant when it comes to search engines that it can make deals to ensure that its systems and then its advertising are present in nearly everything that we can buy today, everything from smartphones to cars. The lawsuit alleges that Google's contracts have secured its search engine default placement in some 80% of web browsers around the world. Now, Google has responded. It says that the lawsuit would seek to deprive Americans of helpful information. It has long maintained that it doesn't breach antitrust law, but this is just the very beginning of what's likely to be an extremely long legal battle.
Indeed, Kate. Walk us through some of those other cases against Google and other tech giants. Who's leading them? What are they accused of?
Well, this is just the third major lawsuit against Google in as little as 2 months, Mark. Just yesterday, a group of 10 states, all of them with Republican attorneys general, targeted Google's dominance in online advertising. That lawsuit accused the company of anti-competitive behavior in what is really the money-making part of Google's business. Back in October, a wider-reaching federal lawsuit was filed by the Department of Justice and 11 U.S. states. It focused on alleged monopolies in markets for general search services and advertising. What all of these cases come down to is the accusation that Google is too big, has too much power, and that it hurts both would-be competitors and consumers. Now, it's far from alone in facing this sort of criticism. Just last week, Facebook was hit by a double lawsuit from the Federal Trade Commission and 48 states and territories. That was focused on its acquisition of WhatsApp and Instagram. The ultimate goal of that lawsuit is really to break up the world's largest social network somewhere down the road, forcing it to divest those former rivals. Now, there have been investigations and indeed fines issued around the world, notably by the European Commission, which sees itself as really leading the global fight against, or at least in trying to tame Silicon Valley, perhaps not against it, but certainly trying to rule it in. Earlier this week, the Commission outlined new proposals to curb both the power and content of big tech giants. There are also moves to crack down really around the globe, from Australia to India, and even on Capitol Hill, where there is growing and indeed bipartisan support for more regulation of the tech industry.
Kate, take us to Wall Street now. How have the stock markets been faring today?
Well, U.S. stocks have closed sharply higher. The session saw new record highs for the Dow Jones, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. Shares of Google's parent company, Alphabet, were down about 1% at the close. Now, at the closing bell, there was still no breakthrough on another round of relief and stimulus funds for American households and businesses, although investors have really latched on to optimism that lawmakers are close to reaching a deal. Markets once again did shrug off largely disappointing employment data. 885,000 Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week. It's the highest level that we've seen since early September. And it does really tie in with what we've heard from economists. And just yesterday, from the head of the U.S. Federal Reserve, unemployment is likely to remain elevated for quite some time. There's been some recovery since that peak of layoffs that we saw back in March. But the labor market in the U.S. is likely to remain weak until vaccines can be distributed widely and the pandemic is really brought under control.